2024 was supposed to be the year of the Jackson, and it made sense considering 3 of the top 15 prospects going into the year were named Jackson. Holiday was number 1, but we all know how that went. Churio was number 7, but he hasn't really been making much noise this year. Merrill was number 12, and despite having the best showing of the 3 Jacksons, not a lot of people were talking about him, except for me. And here we are 2 months into the season, and we have a new number 1 prospect. Ladies and gentlemen, 2024 is now the year of the Skenes. On May 11th, 2024, Paul Skenes made his big league debut at PNC Park against the Cubs. If the baseball world watching wasn't enough pressure for Skenes, he also had to deal with the added pressure of having a pair of the most glorious cheeks in all the land watching him. But it didn't faze him one bit. When you look at Jackson Holliday's debut, you could see the nervousness in his face. With Paul Skenes, on the other hand, he appeared to have ice in his veins. Facing off against the most elite hitters in the world, Skenes looked like he had been there before. He has a quiet, calm confidence about himself, a sense of security that we don't often see from prospects in their first game in the majors. And it didn't take long to see why he felt such a way. Facing Cubs designated hitter Mike Tauchman in the leadoff spot with a full count, Skenes showed us he is the real deal.
Tauchman, swing and a foul tip, he struck him out!
They hadn't thrown a fastball under 100 yet. I don't believe. Let's see, no, 101, 101, 100. 100.9.
This would be the first of 7 strikeouts for Skenes' debut. He hit 100 miles per hour or above a whopping 17 times. It wasn't all glory, though, for Skenes, as he did give up his first big league homer in the 4th and inherited 2 runs from Kyle Nichols in the 5th, leaving Paul with 3 earned runs for the day. He was pulled in the 5th with the lead, but unfortunately, the Pirates' bullpen just kind of fell apart, leading Skenes to a no contest on the day. Keeping this in mind, he wouldn't leave it up to the bullpen in his second start. On May 17th, he faced off against the Cubs again, this time going 6 innings with 11 strikeouts and not allowing a single hit to give Skenes his first W in the majors. Oh, and by the way, those 11 strikeouts, 7 of them came from the first 7 batters he faced. Seriously, guys, this kid has it. His latest start against the Giants wasn't anything to write home about. He struck out 3 in 6 innings, which was enough to have the W penciled in, but once again, the win was ripped from his hands as the Pirates' bullpen fell apart. It's safe to say Paul Skenes is living up to the hype thus far, but unless he throws a shutout while he's on the mound, I don't know if we'll see a lot of dubs in his win column this year. None of this has stopped him from moving up the ranks and now being considered the number 1 prospect in MLB. And it makes perfect sense. He has delivered in the big so far. I mean, big things were expected from Jackson Holiday, and we all know how that went. Back to the AAA. Jackson Churio is playing pretty well, but not as well as many anticipated. He has been great in the field, but is hitting a less than desirable .209 with 44 strikeouts. So, as far as prospects and expectations go, Paul Skenes is definitely number 1. And it wasn't like the expectations were any lower for Skenes than others. Over the 27.1 innings he threw with the Indianapolis Indians, he only allowed 17 hits, 3 earned runs, and 1 homer. A solid showing, no doubt. But the 45 strikeouts is probably what made his call up to the majors a no-brainer. We also have to keep in mind that Skenes only played 5 games in the minors in 2023. And while he did perform well in the rookie and single A, he did struggle a bit in his 2 AA games, leading to a 5.40 ERA. Not something the Pirates were super excited about considering the $9.2 million signing bonus they granted Skenes in July of that year. But again, the sample size was small that year as he only threw 6.2 innings. And it wasn't like Pittsburgh was going to get rid of the best pitching prospects since Steven Strasburg, even if he ended up with a 10.80 ERA. I mean, just looking at Paul Skenes, you can see he has what it takes to be a big leaguer. The guy is a monster, standing at 6'6" and weighing 235 pounds. And with that mustache, he's like a throwback to the 80s. He just looks like a tough, nasty guy. I'm sure he's nice as can be. I mean, how else would he have landed those glorious cheeks? But baseball is as much a mental game as it is physical, and Skenes just looks intimidating. And then when he's chucking balls at 102 miles per hour, my God, it just makes for one scary bad dude. Especially considering 102 is almost the standard for Skenes. His four-seamer averages 100.1 miles per hour. Averages, guys. What the fuck? So not only do you have to worry about a fastball going through your skull, he's coming at you with a slider that averages 86.5 miles per hour, which can reach up to a 15-inch break. And those might not even be his scariest pitches. The infamous Paul Skenes splinker will have batters trying to figure out what the hell they're swinging at for a long time. This thing is the definition of nasty. A split-finger sinker hybrid that has an average of 94.7 miles per hour for Skenes is the fastest off-speed pitch of any starter in the majors right now. It breaks horizontal, it breaks vertical, it breaks spirits. Listen, guys, I'm not trying to be a dick rider here, but I cannot remember the last time I have been this excited to watch a guy on the mound. And it's not just all physical intimidation. Paul Skenes is actually a borderline genius. Seriously, guys, he graduated from El Toro High School with a 4.76 GPA. Now, in my case, I didn't know GPAs could go above a 2.4. I had heard of 4.0s, but a 4.76? So not only does Skenes have all the physical tools to be great, he has the brain to do it too. I mean, how many pitchers could blow out their arm and then go start working for NASA? He's going to stay a step ahead of most hitters with his mind alone. And before you guys make any assumptions, I'm not saying baseball players are dumb. Paul Skenes is just a really smart guy.
He's a smart guy.
And he has heart too. With his GPA, his .67 ERA during his junior year, and .33 ERA his senior year, he could have went to college anywhere. But to Skenes, serving his country was more important than seeking baseball glory. So he chose to commit to the United States Air Force Academy. In his first season with the Air Force Falcons, Skenes was named the Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year and a first-time All-American by the Collegiate Baseball newspaper, Baseball America, and the NCBWA. He didn't slow down that summer either. He had a solid showing with the Wareham Gatemen of the Cape Cod Baseball League. His sophomore year was no different. Skenes won the John Olerud Award as the nation's best two-way player in 2022. That's right, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but Skenes can swing the wood too. It was at this point that Skenes knew he wanted to go pro, so rather than staying with the Falcons, where he most likely would have had to serve after graduating, he opted to enter the NCAA transfer portal after his sophomore season. During the summer of 2022, he announced he would take his talents to Louisiana and play with the LSU Tigers. I guess he used that big brain of his because going to LSU was one of the best decisions Paul Skenes would ever make. He knew testing himself against elite SEC talent would put him on the radar of scouts, and man, did he make a mark in 2023. He would reach a 12-2 record with the Tigers over 19 starts, and over the 122.2 innings he pitched, he struck out 209 batters and ended the season with a 1.69 ERA. His 203rd strikeout on June 22nd actually broke the SEC and LSU record for strikeouts in a single season, formerly held by College Baseball Hall of Famer Ben McDonald. Skenes led the Tigers into the College World Series, and he absolutely dominated. In his 4 postseason starts, he allowed only 4 runs and struck out 42. Not only would LSU clinch the College World Series in 2023, but Paul Skenes won the National Player of the Year award, the Dick Howser Trophy, and was named the College World Series Most Outstanding Player for the cherry on top. Again, I'm not trying to dick ride here, but Paul Skenes is something special, guys. The comparisons to Steven Strasburg are 100% warranted, but also a bit worrisome. As great as Strasburg was, his career was plagued with injuries. And for a guy who's throwing 102, it does raise some concerns. The amount of injuries big league pitchers have been encountering lately doesn't ease any worries either. I know talking about a pitcher's potential injuries is just as bad as bringing up a perfect game in the 8th, but we'd be foolish not to acknowledge it. Granted, Paul Skenes hasn't had any major or really minor issues up until this point, whereas Strasburg had some health issues early on, possibly due to his weight issues. But at the moment, Skenes is right where he needs to be. He's healthy, he's performing well, and it's just a matter of time before we see some spectacular performances from the young gunslinger. And speaking of spectacular pitching performances, who has the absolute best pitching performance of all time? Is it one of the many shutouts Nolan Ryan threw? Or Mark Burley's perfect game? Lucky for you, I made a video covering some of the greatest pitching performances of all time right here. So check it out and subscribe to Baseball Buzz.